Hey guys, welcome back to another amazing, awesome interview with not the man, the meme, the guy that literally will meme himself into a grave. It's Pheano. Dude, how are you?
Hi. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Awesome. So we wanted to bring you on because I saw your video lately about Icelander, and when I was watching you play Prism, you came second in the calling, and I get mixed up because there's been quite a few American callings. Which one did you come second in?
Indie.
Indy, that was it. I kept thinking it's Las Vegas, but it wasn't. There's been quite a few, and you played
I'm still kicking myself for not going to that first Vegas calling.
Oh,
I was like, oh man, I'm just a big fish in a little pond doing well in my local area. I shouldn't go to Indy. Everyone's incredible at this game. Like, I'm just going to get blown out. And then multiple people in my local friend group went and did well. A couple of them topped. And I was like, I should have gone. These are the people that I play with on the
well,
regular, I guess.
yeah.
Should have gone to that. Damn it.
Well, but then you went to Indy, came second in your Prism list. Well, Prism's, which is we're going to go through a couple of questions, and quite especially when the Spectre one's coming out. It's kind of maybe I'll just kick off for this one. The Spectre list is very control-y. It felt like it was a very control-y type of deck where you're basically creating a massive board space. You're presenting the opponent loads of really difficult questions of going, every one of these things are a bit of a nightmare. Which one are you going to deal with? And I'm just going to make more. So that after seeing that, it felt very much like you seem to really, really enjoy the control archetype. And your video with Icelander really just proved that even more. So I've got a load of questions from patrons, which is all about control-based stuff. I hope you're ready. I've sent them to you. Are you ready?
Yes. I actually really like that you said asking a lot of questions with it, because that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about with the whole thing too, of like control and flesh and blood, of the whole aspect of asking versus answering questions. And we can come back to that once we hit one of the questions that's relevant on, but that's like a big part of what control is.
Sure, Brill. So we'll kick this off really. How would you define the control archetype, flesh and blood? Maybe that is probably the starting question.
Sure. I don't know. It's really weird in Flesh and Blood because we don't have until we got Icelander, we didn't have like a traditional like blue-white control deck that you just sit there with counter spells and you just say no to everything. Which is like the type of thing that I would have played in Magic back in the day, like a blue-white control deck. You top off of the Sphinx's Revelation or something. You got your Snapcaster Mages. That is my jam. That is what I love to do, and that didn't exist in this game.
Not even Oldhim?
We're going to come back to that.
Cool.
Because that doesn't really play like that, because it's asking versus answering questions. And typically in Magic, when you think of a control deck, it's usually something that's answering the questions. Your opponent asks you the question, and they say, deal with this. And you go, I will deal with that. Doomblade it, counterspell it, Wrath of God. And you're just sitting there answering their questions until you hit this point where you can then start asking your own questions, like playing a Planeswalker or something, and you hit this inevitability state where they can no longer proactively win the game anymore, and they can't deal with the questions you're asking them, and you win.
Yeah. That's
and
really
Oldhim, I would say Oldhim, Dash, and Prism before Icelander are some control decks that don't do that but are still control decks in this game, because they are more proactive control decks, I would say, where it's kind of like your blue-black control deck where you're playing a lot more on your turn instead of on your opponent's, where you're just like presenting a threat and saying deal with it. Where in Oldham's case, it's more like you're asking your opponent the question of, I'm going to block all of the damage you're presenting to me to the point that you cannot kill me if you're just chaining 4 to 5 card hands into me.
right.
So I'm asking you the question, can you get over the amount that I'm blocking every round? I am going to emit 9 damage a round or something like that. Deal with it. And then it now poses the question to the opponent, deal with that. Okay, well, I need to now present a threat to like channel mount heroic
Yeah.
or a crazy rune chant round, or maybe I need to sandbag this art of war to have a double art of war round so I can present 30 to 40 damage in one round.
Mm.
It's not, you're not reacting to what your opponent's doing in that kind of style. You're saying, nope, you need to have it. Deal with my blocking, and I'm going to hammer you every round. Or like Icelander, you're reactively responding to what your opponent's doing, more like a traditional Magic control deck.
Yeah.
Dash, kind of similar. You're just kind of blocking and then saying, deal with the amount of blocking I have because we're going to end up hitting a second cycle, and I'm happy with a bunch of blues. You're not.
Okay. So
And then,
so Icelander is the, like you said, is the very first hero that is presenting this typical control deck of responding to everything you're doing, and then in the end, you said you're coming back with some answers, some questions that they need to answer, and it's really goddamn difficult. What does Prism with all the Spectras fit into this role?
I would say Prism is playing kind of similar to how I play Icelander right now, where I'm not playing Icelander as like a blue-white control deck. I'm playing Icelander more like a blue-red tempo burn deck.
Right. Okay. So just in the context, because we've got quite a few people who. So I understand that you're putting a lot of Magic lingo into a lot of this as context. So for some people, would that be more of a really disruptive tempo thing? So you're just
Yeah,
making their
like,
turn crap, and then your turn is now garbage, but I'm actually doing damage.
or I'm kind of in control of the game. I'm not playing control, but I'm in control. Where it's like, think of that like scene in Batman where Bane goes up to him and he's like, "Do you feel like you're in control?"
Yeah.
Like, sure, you're attacking me, but like I'm presenting you all these auras and giving you a million choices, and you have a bunch of opportunities to make the wrong choice. Do you feel like you're in control, even though you're the one proactively attacking me?
Is that what Prism's like?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
that's
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna choose what damage I'm taking, and then present you back a question of these auras and try to get down multiple of them. And now you have too many choices of which ones to kill. Do you go face? Do you go for an aura? Do you maybe sandbag around? And it gives them a lot of opportunities to make the wrong choice. And I get to go into each of those turn cycles with full information almost, where like I get to look at my hand, they're attacking me, and I get to go, what do I want to do on my turn? Because I know what they're going to do here. It's a very face up that they're either punching me or punching my auras, and I'm going to block in such a way that is most advantageous to me and continue presenting this awkward situation to them. And then that really leans into what makes it like control, where it's like it's tempo control, where you're just trying to control the flow of the game until you can take over with that inevitability state.
Mm.
It just doesn't play like a typical control deck, and I've been trying to think of how to articulate this for a long time because it doesn't play like anything else I've really played in other card games. Prism's very unique.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I think the only way to sort of, I suppose, really with Flesh and Blood, it has it when it with it's a new game within itself, and I know there's things that you can sort of lean into, but I suppose really it's board state, isn't it? It's inevitable board state. That's that. I think Dash and Dromite and Prism are those heroes that just set up a board state that is just an engine of pain, and you really can't deal with the engine. They just want to stop what you're doing, build the engine up, and then once the engine is built, off you go. Is that control? Is that tempo? It starts control, becomes tempo, and then it's just, you know,
Yeah,
game over, baby. So yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people want to put things in the box. That is the box it remains in, and it's actually with Flesh and Blood, it's far more intricate than that. Some heroes are
and it can
pretty
change
obvious
based,
with its aggro,
yeah,
but
and it can change like how you're playing the deck too. Like you could play the same list, but physically play your games out differently. Or like you may play this list more controlling than I do, where I may play it more aggressively or more tempo based. And like there's a lot of player agency over how they play their games out versus other games. Or like you look at a deck list for another game, you're like, there's one way for me to play this deck out. I'm playing mono red. I don't have a choice. I'm just playing my cards out.
Yeah.
I can't change my strategy.
Yeah. One of the other questions is, how do you think the control type fits into Flesh and Blood as a whole, and does it fit into the current meta?
Certainly fits into the current meta.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're in
Yeah.
a very aggressive meta right now, so like these control decks prey on the aggro decks where they go, oh, you're doing a linear aggro strategy that is very disruptible. Okay, here's one frostbite, your turn's over. Like stuff like that can
Yeah.
just ruin aggro decks days.
So
oh, you're gonna do some searching, here's a channel Bleak Expanse.
that's
My turn.
yeah. It's all when the channel comes out and they're just like, okay, thanks. So what's your approach of making a control deck work in Flesh and Blood?
Making it work. It's kind of a broad question. And
yeah,
making it work is winning the game, but like, I guess it's how am I trying to win with a particular hero, and does controlling the game work with that strategy? So like Icelander, yeah, controlling the game works with this strategy. I can't like just sit there and try to burn them out with Icelander. I'm going to lose that race.
It's kind of weird because when I think about this, it feels like there's only one set of cards that are presenting what control really is, and that is Ice. Right? Ice is delivering what we believe the control, like that is fitting into the control. We can put all that into the control box, right?
You could also say like Guardian and Ranger actions, where it's more of a proactive control with these hit effects.
Yeah,
it's more like a Axis style.
It's that weird thing. I think when you look at other card games and you look at Magic the Gathering, and you put, I don't know, I know how to play Pokemon, but in terms of the deeper levels, but it feels like with those sort of games, it's very obvious you're trying to, like, board state is pretty much the name of the game, whereas this game really isn't trying to make a board state. Well, some heroes are, and they're the ones that are getting lumped into the control box, where they go, oh yeah, well, I make the things up, and I think people are trying to go, well, they're control, right? And then it's kind of weird because they're not really doing the control stuff as good as we want it. Whereas when you look at aggro heroes, there seems to be kind of a few ways you can go about being aggro, like Runeblade, like Viserai, Briar, Fi, Katsu, even Dash when they want to go technical, even Prism, right? I think it's so easy you can just throw them into a box of just go face aggro. Very difficult to sort of. I think we're just too early into the card pool currently, in my opinion, to actually define what is some real control, because all we got is Ice. I feel like we need to see another talent do more.
I would say that like there's like 3 different ways that you can control in this game. There's the like direct, I am interacting with your game plan with ice cards and preventing you from playing the game. And then there's the tempo style, which is more what I gravitate towards, of just I'm controlling through just the tempo of the game and like making you make awkward decisions based on what I'm presenting you. And then there's also fatigue. Like I would say fatigue is a style of control. Like we're just going to play through everything and you're not going to cross the finish line. And like Briar technically has another way of being played. You just never see it. Like you have all these earth cards that put stuff back in the deck and gas back up. Briar could be played as an earth fatigue deck. I've done that in limited.
Yeah.
And it was very good into the everyone trying to jam Oldhim against you in that limited format. You're like, no, look at me. I am the fatigue deck. I'm gonna run through your whole deck, and I'm gonna have these 2 evergreens, and I'm just gonna loop them at the end of the game. Drone of Brutality, that's a form of control.
Yeah,
but we don't see that style as often because the aggro decks are just so efficient at what they're doing that it's hard to fatigue them out.
That moves on quite nicely into my next question. Do you think control will have or continue to have a place moving forward as aggro decks get more and more explosively consistent? So,
yeah. I think that kind of what I said earlier of these aggro decks are designed to prey on the aggro decks. Let's say we didn't have that emergency ban of stubby hammers and we went into a theoretically, like, things
Theoretically.
are going to play out as they play out, and we don't know, we can't predict the future, but let's just say theoretically we moved into a tier 0 format of it is you're just playing stubby hammers 5 or you're playing a deck that beats that. Ice control decks are quite good into that. You're stopping them from doing their game plan, and they only have the one game plan theoretically.
Mm.
But the deck could have evolved to stop that. I'm just saying, if they're just on the one game plan, ice stops that. Oh, you're gonna go for it? Okay, instant speed Channel Lake Frigid. Good luck trying to do it now.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna go for it? Instant speed, give you a million frostbites. You don't have a blue to cover this. Your turn's over. You already cracked all your armor. It's over. Like, they're so all in on this strategy that they can't do it. You look at the Tales of Aria season where Briar was queen. Ice decks were very good in that meta to prey on Briar.
Mm.
So like, I think control gets better as aggro gets better.
Yes, I think it's, for me, from when I'm looking at this, it seems like the typical thing of new set comes out, the first thing everyone runs to is what is the new aggro, and then there's, because no one can actually run around and actually work out what the control decks are until we know what the aggro decks you've got to control.
Yeah, you need a clear target.
Yeah,
You need to what am I trying to beat as the control deck?
yeah, absolutely. So I think this is kind of natural. This is good. So everyone, at the minute, you're seeing a lot of these amazing results with Phi and Viscerai and Briar, running out the doors with this. It's kind of exactly what the control heroes for Pro Tour Lil and everything want to see. They go, cool, show me what I need to do. Because if I don't know what I'm controlling, really flipping awkward to actually go, well, what card, what am I attacking? So,
Yeah, like, the more diverse the meta is, the harder it is on them.
yeah.
That's where you start seeing the more, like, broader control strategies do well. Like, I'm just a tempo control deck. I don't need a clear target. I'm not trying to bring in tech for a specific strategy of, like, oh, I have this, like, package for this. Like, I can just broadly be a tempo control deck and just have kind of a game into everything. That's where Prism does really well.
Yeah, and I suppose really, if Dash just get a bit more kit, I believe Dash as well is just one of those heroes as well where they've got tools, and these tools are good for quite a few things, and their game plan's pretty solid. So
yeah,
I've got one.
I agree with that.
I got one where you probably will be like, oh, what? That's not. It's not. We're not there yet. But once Prism Living Legends. What do you think the premiere? Oh, yeah, we will. Everyone will make sure that never happens. That's not happening. But
the Prism Mind Collective is going to int every tournament to keep her at 2.
So what do you? Okay, I'm going to side this out a little bit here. Yeah, I love her so much. I love you so much, baby. Get in the coffin. No. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. You'll never see light again. But I'm the sculpture of Arclight. No, you're not down here. We'll never bring you out again. What do you do? Like, oh, look at this amazing event. Guess I'm not playing Prism. You get Living Legend. Winning either.
No, you just into the finals.
Ah, right. I said this to Ethan Van Sant, and I will say this to you. Right. You're at the Worlds. You're in the final. You could win this. 100 grand. You're going to live in Legend Prism. Will you do it?
If it's specifically me, I would want to, just to put the nail in the coffin myself, and just the meme has come to fruition.
Right. That's really interesting, because Ethan said he would concede, and I said, I don't believe you. No one. Like, surely.
With Levia?
With Levia, yeah. He said, no, I don't want to be the one that takes her away. And I'm like, wow.
Well, thankfully, we don't have to worry about Levia ever hitting Legend, right?
Oh, the gauntlet is thrown down. But this is the thing. This is the thing. If you're in the Worlds, you're at the point, you're in the final, or maybe even not even Worlds. Let's say it's the Calling. There's some money. Real money. Are you going to be that guy that goes, nah, I'm going to chuck 25 grand away to keep her in? You know what I mean? Yeah, you're like respect. I'm setting up a Patreon account. Help me out. So that's the thing. A lot of people, I think that a lot of people say that, but will you actually turn around and beat the guy and go, no?
I think that's legitimately a thing that I don't like about the living legend system. The fact that it's even a conversation, I
Around
don't
that.
like that. The fact that like I don't want people to consider whether or not they want to win because they know that will ban their own deck. I think that's kind of dumb. But
It's kind of I don't know. I think I don't mind it too much. I think we have a lack of information around what's coming around. What's coming over the horizon. So what we got to work. Right now everyone's looking at, but this is the field that we can see. Does this look good?
yeah,
No, it looks terrible, right? Because my guy's gone. But once you see over the hill and go, well, it's not gone because we know we're going to get another format for Living Legend Heroes. We know that's coming, so we can, if you want to continue to play her, you can play her in this format. And then there is room for
sure.
another hero to show up and go, I'm an arc, I'm a
I
light person. Okay, cool.
I need to see what it's going to look like when they actually do that because it's a lot of this is going to happen, but we don't know what it's actually going to look like, what the replacements are going to look like, and such. What the timeline is on that. Like, we just need more info. Like, I can't say I like or dislike something based off of them just being like, this will eventually happen. It's like, well, I'm basing life decisions on like whether or not I can play a certain hero.
Yeah,
I
it's
need to
money. It's
know
money, isn't it?
this stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that a lot of people have critiques over, and the answer to all those things are game is really young. It's you give this
yeah.
game
And it's
5 years
so
and some
heroes right now that it's really impactful when we lose one. Where
yeah.
it's like we've just gained 3 heroes. With Prism leaving, we have lost 3 heroes. So the game isn't growing in hero base theoretically.
Mm.
And if that rate continues, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? We don't know yet. We don't have enough info, and it's a big rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's quite a few things in terms of like their point system as well. I feel like Prism and Chain are actually going like Prism especially has gone through the natural progression of this is kind of what should be like. She came out
Sure.
3 sets ago, pretty good, just trucking along, think crazy, and boop, there you go. I think it's just done consistently quite well. This hero is very consistent. And she should
Yeah.
be living legend for her consistency. Chain as well. You got a ban,
Yeah.
but you did it. Stavo is kind of like, oh my god, this is dumb as shit. And
Yeah. That was
off
a
you go.
safety valve.
Yeah, and I think there's also working out the points as well. Like Jesus Christ, there's so many points.
Yeah. I have faith that they're gonna as a company do the right thing because they care about the game. It's very clear they care.
Oh yeah,
And they want
absolutely.
the game to be good and they want the player experience to be good. It's just hard to say how I feel about things
Oh
when we
yeah,
don't know.
no, that's true. So once Prism Living Legends,
Rabbit hole.
what do you think the premier control deck will be? That's a pretty so. I suppose really, some people consider Prism is the control deck. It's a very hard one. I mean, in my natural thought process, go Oldham and Icelander and Ash and
I agree with that.
Dromai's in that same-ish kind. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. Dromai feels like it's doing the same sort of things Prism is doing, creating boards, creating that board space, and here's a load of awkward
Yeah.
questions. It's tempo control, but it's not as busted because you know Spectre is a very, very, very strong keyword, but it's
Yeah.
kind of doing the same thing. I don't know. I think I'm answering your question for you, but I don't know whether that feels like a pretty
I mean, we're having a conversation. I want to hear your opinion.
thanks. So yeah, that's my
I'm sure the viewers want to hear your opinion too.
these aren't mine. These are patrons. Darn you, patrons. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Is there anything more to add on that?
I mean, it's what's going to be the premiere. And that's a question of, are we saying what's the best or the most popular? And I think Prism leaving really opens up the floodgates a bit for a lot of the control decks, because like Icelander and Oldhim both don't like seeing Prism in the meta.
Oh,
So
100.
they will gain value by that leaving. More of those decks also is something that Dromai wants to see. So like maybe Dromai gains a bit of popularity off of that. But I feel like a lot of people don't play Dromai as a control deck. They're just going, here's dragons, and they're just playing their hand out. So that's not a control deck. That's the same thing as if you played Prism and you're just playing Herald Prism. That's not a control deck. You're just
No.
playing your cards.
Yeah.
So like I think some people play it as a control deck, but that goes back to this is a way you can play the list. You can play this as a control deck. And then that which one's the premier probably boils down to which one targets the meta better. Like, do we move into a space where people can't get over the hump of what Oldhim is able to block for? Well, then Oldhim probably does the best. But if people are able to get over what Oldhim's doing because it is such an aggressively efficient deck, well, then that probably means something like that is shut down very easily on their turn, meaning Icelander will probably prey on that style more. So, like, it's probably between those two decks, and it's just which one targets what people are doing better.
Yeah.
And that might go back and forth frequently of, like, this season, this one's better for targeting, and then people adjust, and now this is better. And, it's a meta game.
Yeah, that's true.
It's one of those things where if you're just a control player and you don't care which one you're going to play, you should probably just have both of them ready to be played at any time.
Yeah. So, what is the worst matchup playing the control style?
I think I just answered that.
Yeah, you did. And do you fear?
Prism.
And do you fear timing out? But I suppose really as Prism, don't know. Are you ever worried about time?
I very rarely go to time. I think I only went to time once this entire year, and that was my game on stream at the Pro Tour, because my deck was just like, what if I just never gave you the War Tune to kill the Urser? In hindsight, though, we had a judge call and should have asked for a time extension. Oops. That was my mistake for not asking for that.
Right.
But I never go to time really, but that's also because I'm not playing like a fatigue style of control where we're just going to play through everything. Generally, these games are ending in the first cycle, so these games are going like 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're going to time, it's probably because either you're not confident enough about your decision making with the deck where you're thinking too long, or you're not nudging your opponent to play faster. We're like, let's say you're playing Oldhim. If you're just blocking with 3 cards essentially every round and pushing Hammer, there's not a ton to really sit there thinking about. It's, what card do I want to arsenal? Do I want to set up my pitch? Keep a nice card to push Hammer? What's the most efficient way to block? You're obviously thinking, but it's not like this incredible deep, like, oh, I gotta like really tank on this and make this massive decision every time. It's, yep, I'm gonna block with 3 cards and push my Hammer. But a lot of times your opponent is, when they're faced with 1 Frostbite, they're like, oh my god, everything changed because there's 1 Frostbite, and they take like 5 minutes looking at their hand. And you need to be like, I need you to play faster. It's 1 Frostbite. Let's go.
Yeah.
You've been faced with this decision every turn this game. Let's go.
Yeah.
So nudging your opponent to play faster is a big part of that.
I think you've come up. I think you've basically, to me, you've come up with something quite interesting where I think this probably helps sift through some of the people's troll-based questions. There seems to be 3 types of ways that we can, like, it's 3 subtypes of control. You got the tempo control stuff, very much like you said with Prism, and feels like Jamie Faulkner's Dromai, a little bit almost like Dash, where you're controlling the game until you get to the point and then go, which we explained. Fatigue control is Oldhim. That's the one where people will fear timing out, right? Because you're like, okay. And then you got Icelander, where I don't know yet whether there is a fatigue Icelander. Doesn't feel like there is, because she doesn't have a hammer for one, and she doesn't have Crown of Seeds. Equipment garbage. So she seems like very much the true and one and only disruptor hero. To go, no. Like, she has to make tempo through the disruption of the turn rather than building an engine up, because there isn't really all of her engine is limited. There's only so much finite time to get that window open, and then you got to take it. So
yeah,
there's those three control type stuff. So if anyone's sort of listening to this, that's probably when you're thinking control, you need to think which subtype of control are you thinking of, because they've all got their own.
and maybe the proactive on hit effect control deck like Bravo or
Yeah.
Ice Lexi, like where you're still asking them the question of deal with this, but you're still interacting with them in a way of saying you don't get to play these certain cards unless you give me cards.
See, it's really weird, because I always felt, and people could probably say I'm wrong, I always feel like Bravo is actually sitting more in this mid-rangey camp, because mid-range to me is just going,
Sure.
damage, deal with this damage. This
I
damage
agree
is
with that.
awkward. And you're like, oh, okay, damage is awkward. And I don't need to do much. I just need to just slam out effective turns. I can block all right. I can attack all right. That's it. That's mid-range.
It's
Bravo
like
feels
how
like
far
that.
on the spectrum it is. It's like, ice all the way over here on this end of the spectrum, Prism somewhere here, Bravo's probably somewhere over. Like, it's not like a true control deck, but like it's how are you gonna, as the viewer, define what control is?
Yeah.
Is it just you're interacting with their game plan in some way? Then maybe you would consider presenting them the question that gives them you cards a form of control. That's up to you if you want to define it that way.
Yeah. It's kind of a really interesting topic, far more than I thought. Like, I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. And as we're deep diving it, you're kind of like, oh. And like, everyone can't help but to put things into boxes, right? And even when we're saying about this fatigue Oldhim isn't just fatigue. I've seen zealous beltings and e-strikes and all sorts of stuff. Is that good? I don't. People say, "Oh, it's not good. It's not good," but it exists.
I think you need it in certain matchups.
Yeah, you do. You need it. You need to go, well, that's actually a style where I actually lost to a very good player, where I went, okay, hold him. He's control. I'm going to play into control. And zealous and e-strikes and everything come up, and I went, oh my god. And I just lost because I just looked at that wrong. So, I think when you're looking at these heroes have, there's his control, there's the three subtypes of control. You say Icelander is this, it might be this, it might be completely different. There's so many subtypes for per hero. It's just to say control, extremely is now I'm like, I feel like Kano at the minute. You say control and you're like, oh my god. So much to unpack here. I'm in the tank.
You showed me one of the questions where it's like, it was something about counterspell. I don't know if you have that in front of you.
Yeah, this is moving on to that question now. So there are very few counterspell type effects in Flesh and Blood, though more have been added and a few adjacent concepts exist. Wizard has access to Rewind and Aetherize. Ice have access to Blizzard and Hypothermia, which in Icelander can be played in an instant. Prism has access to ALS. Do you think the game should pursue more counterspell adjacent design spaces? If so, how would you like to see it done?
If your opponent plays a card and attacks you, and you block with a card, you just countered what they're doing. I honestly view a lot of just blocking with a card as a counterspell. They asked you a question, you said no. You're that is a form of interacting and countering what they're doing. Like I view Sink Below as a counterspell almost.
Okay.
I don't think that you need it to just be specifically counter that spell, negate it, or whatever. Just you're still saying no to what they did. So
yeah, kind of like Snag. Snag is some way of that way. It just goes. It's not. I mean, it is blocking. It's doing something. Is it? But it's just disrupting the flow of the play of going. I know this is what you wanted, but here we go, and
Yeah.
it's just not as good. Maybe people need to think that maybe it's a mindset of where blocking isn't counterspelling. I've never thought of it that way. I'll be honest. The way when you said it, I was like, oh,
The real difference there is you're not like stopping any effects when a card is played.
no.
So like maybe we need some more of that in the future for like I need to like I have a card that just counters a spell, but I need to pitch my whole hand to play it or something like that. So that way, like, oh, if my opponent plays a card with a really big effect,
Kind
kind
of
of like
like
ALS,
ALS, yeah.
I can just be like, I fridge my hand and stop you. But that's like a really hard mechanic to design in this game and feel good on both sides of the table, where it feels impactful enough when you do it that it's worth playing, but also not a complete feels bad when your opponent does it. For like, if we just got 2 resources counter spell, that would probably be grossly overpowered in this game. Your opponent plays a crippling crush, and you just go no for 2 cards.
Yeah. No, that doesn't. It doesn't feel right. Crippling Crush is like when you look at these certain things, like there are some strong cards. Like I think people would look at like, can I make a Revel? Like the person that's playing Revel go, I don't want to make. I want to make sure that's unfair, but maybe there's I don't know. There's some arguments where you can actually look at certain effects, but they're so niche in themselves with certain heroes. Like Revel is not a busted card in a vacuum. If Revel is not busted in Briar, it wasn't really that busted in Chain. It was good. It wasn't broken. But in Viserai is broken. And he makes it more broken by a good setup. And you doesn't have the means to draw shit tons. Well, he does have some ways. I'm not gonna say there isn't. He has a couple of flexible slots. But it takes do this, do this, do this. And in a game where you're effectively playing amnesia with your last hand, is it fair to then just go, I've got to set shit up, and it doesn't matter because you're just gonna go no, like and everyone has any given point to just go no over stuff. Too much of it, I believe, would be boring. It's boring. I know Revel isn't fun, but at least the game will be over. Like you gotta try and get the game over. Yeah, I'm saying
you
Revel.
gotta kill people.
You got to win the game.
You gotta kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was just all ice decks, no one actually can win the game. Like, yikes.
Yeah, you gotta have some cards that are pretty strong, just pretty strong. And I suppose really a lot of people find it kind of gross that when everyone wants to only play heroes that are trying to knuckle heads into each other, and then it is just a race of who can play the best knucklehead. A card. It is like, oh, okay. Well, this is.
I like the knucklehead analogy.
I don't know. Just okay. I don't know. Just it's like a 5 draft mirror. It's like bang, bang, bang. You hold my hand, I hold your hand. We'll just punch each other in the face until it gives up. You need them because these control cards coming around are just like so, like Channel 8 Frigid is a real thing. And it's awful. And you need these burst cards to go, you don't have it? You don't have a window? Boom. Here you go. My window's just opened up. And then it just makes control decks go, Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's, yeah.
Then again, a lot of these control cards are good against those, too. Like, imagine you play the Revel after a Mordred, and then I now tax you so you can't push the sword. And then you just lost all your rune chance.
Yeah. It's very much a...
There is counterplay.
There is counterplay. You've got to be... there's got to be good with it. So you don't believe you don't believe we need to have more instant base cards, or if we do, they've got to be really creative, I imagine.
I like what they've done so far with them. I think that we need some number of them in the game that are like really narrow effects, like the ones that we have right now, that like this stops something like really specific and isn't that good of a rate. But the fact that it exists is good for the future if we get something degenerate, where at least we have the answer now. Look at a lot of the problems we've had over the past year of different broken interactions we've had. Well, if we had a card that just said no to that interaction, maybe that wouldn't have been as big of an issue as it was. Like, imagine if we had more anti-chain cards. Would chain have been an issue during Monarch and during that last meta if we just had more answers to that? Even if those answers weren't good in a vacuum,
Yeah.
it just the existence of it makes it so people can't just unga bunga go all in on one strategy. Because the more they do that, people go, well, if you're just going to do that, then I'm going to board in all of these narrow answers to you, and you can never face this.
Yeah. I suppose really that question is like, did we Snag was the obvious seed Riftbind counter card, right? Where they just go, I set this all up, and you go, and no. It didn't
No.
feel good enough because there wasn't enough of it. So a lot of people just didn't play it because it just wasn't enough ways to set it up, because the game is so, clear your hand, draw the next one, clear your hand, draw the next one. You need to get through your deck.
Well, the problem with that was that they had other avenues of attack too.
Yeah,
Like the
that's
chain
true.
deck was just way too versatile. It just had oh, you played a snag? Okay, well, I'm just not going to continue playing things buffing my Riftbind,
Riftbind,
I think it
yeah.
was called. Like, I'm gonna fish for it. Oh, you didn't snag this one. Okay, well, I'm gonna now play even more, and this second Riftbind is gonna really smash you.
Yeah, that's true. But
Oh,
but you see, look at Aetherize as well. Aetherize, you looked at that, it's literally counterspell. Very specific. Never gets played.
because we've never needed it to see play. We don't have anything it needs to target, but the existence of it is a good thing, because if they print something, it's a safety valve. Like we don't. I really like cards like this as a safety valve, and then hope they never see play. Like, on the other end, I laughed when I saw this card and when I hope this never sees play. Blossom of Spring. I was like, that's really cute that this exists, but I'm afraid of the day that this sees play over Tunic, because a deck's gonna go, we're not getting our third Tunic counter.
we're not making it to turn 3. Jeez.
And then that immediately happened with the Phi deck. We're not getting to third Tunic counter. Turn 2 kill.
Oh yeah.
Safety valves are a good thing.
Yeah.
I remember I used to play Force of Will a lot, and there was just constant calls for bans and adjustments back when I was playing, where if we had cards that were printed already that dealt with a lot of these issues, these wouldn't have been issues. And then they banned the card and then immediately printed the answer to those cards. And I was like, well, why didn't you just print the answer then before banning it? A good example of this would be back in for Magic viewers, the Kaladesh era. That was a point where they said counter spells and Doomblades feel really bad to play against, so we're gonna not print good counter spells into standard. We didn't have like Mana Leak and Doomblade for a long time, and then because of that, we also didn't have a good disenchant in the meta at the time. And then because of that, we had the Aetherworks Marvel deck pop up, and there was no good answers to that deck on the curve of what that deck was playing. So we just had this degenerate meta because we didn't have the answers. Disenchant is a card that, when this card is bad, it probably is a good thing, because it means that we don't have dumb shit running around that we need to draw this to kill, but we need it to exist so that way if something happens, we have the answer. Now, that's a very generic answer, not that narrow one that I'm talking about, but I do like the existence of these things.
Bro.
It's a safety valve.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's cool. The last one from the patrons, which is this game. They feel this game has been seen primarily aggro decks run the meta in CC since the release of Monarch. What is it about Flesh and Blood currently, or underlying design of Flesh and Blood, that makes aggro so effective?
I think part of it is control's a bit difficult to play for a lot of people. Like the comment about going to time, people are really afraid of that. It's much easier just playing your strategy than trying to stop your opponent from playing theirs. I know my deck, I'm just going to do my proactive thing. And a lot of times too, our meta in this game has developed slower than metas in a lot of other card games. where like you look at Road to National season and all 4 weeks the meta was still developing. You look back at the last Road season with Chain,
Yeah, well, yeah.
Every week people were coming up with a new strategy to target Chain, and it would work, and then the next week the Chain deck would evolve to stop it. The meta is not getting homogenized very quickly in this game compared to a lot of other card games. And when that is the case, when it is a open meta, like we said earlier, control decks need that clear target, so it becomes difficult to do that. And on that same note, when it's not a clear meta, just playing a proactive aggro deck is very good into that open field where you're like, I don't know what people are going to be playing. I don't know what the best thing to do is because there's a lot of things that are just good, but not no clear best. I'm just going to play my strategy and hope that it's good enough. And that works a lot of the times. Like when you're that control deck and it's open, you're like, I 30% of this room is what I'm looking for. I guess I'm not topping today.
Yeah, that's. I think that summarized it pretty well. Like the Road to National season really didn't really. I don't know. It's kind of wild, really, because I think Phi was kind of undervalued right from the start, and
we had an OTK deck with it, and people didn't realize it until after Rhodes was over.
Yeah, and then basically Utrecht showed that off and went, okay, this is now. And then I even saw it and was just like, what the shit? this is crazy. And then and now it's gone. It was like, oh, here it is, and now
That's
it's
a
gone.
really slow meta progression. A month for people to figure out there was an OTK. That's a very slow meta progression.
So I wonder, why is that? Do you think?
The amount of data that we get in this game, I think. You look at Magic, the meta will get solved so quickly, but it's because of all the Magic Online data, I think.
Right. Sure. It's just
there's just more games being played.
Okay. Do you think people are? Well, we're moving off now. Moving off for a little bit, probably from the whole thing. I think we've 40 so minutes in. I think we've kind of covered a lot of control. There's enough control there. Do you think people's
results?
Yeah. Results. Do you think we share enough as a community? I think we do, but
sure.
We do. I think that's a pretty silly question. But do you think there is kind of weird, really? Maybe I don't know. Why does it? Why do
you want a meta solved in 1 week?
No.
Do you want a meta solved in 1 week?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
I don't like that because then it just turns into everyone's playing the same couple decks that are just slightly more tuned than each other, and
I don't know if it's solved.
It removes a lot of creativity.
I think a direction that makes sense. Like a this looks likely to happen. We don't know, but the trajectory is pointing this way. Yeah, I think we do. I think currently now, Phi is the aggro.
I think
hero.
everyone off.
And Viscera and everyone
out of the gates was like, yeah, I think everyone out of the gates was like, oh yeah, there's a clear target of like Briar, Viscerai, maybe like a week in for people to figure out Viscerai was still really good.
Yeah.
And then Phi's probably good, but we don't have a good list yet. And then we have the old heroes of Prism, Ultim. Like people knew like what's good, but it wasn't this like refined lists yet of everyone targeting everything perfectly. Like it takes a few weeks.
Yeah.
We don't have thousands and thousands of games being jammed online giving us data. And
that's true.
We're probably never going to have that.
Yeah, that's.
And do we want that?
Like, no, I don't. Maybe that's the right thing there. Maybe it's actually quite fun. I don't know. Some people might find that fun. I love it. I love sitting there just seeing the waves move about. Where are we? What's going on? I think it's this, and then it's not that. It's actually this. Oh, okay. It's not this. It's actually that. So maybe them deals with that. No, them doesn't deal with that. Oh, I thought it would. No, it doesn't. Oh shit. It's when the answers that you think are obvious suddenly go, no. That doesn't deal with that. And then you go, oh shit. Okay. Is that actually that strong? Yes, actually that strong. That's like Chain and Starvo. You go, oh yeah, people can beat them. Well, no, you can't.
No.
Uh-oh. That's when
I think Starvo was a bit of a unique situation when it came to that. I think that like after the first week was very clearly like, oh, this is the best thing you could be doing. And it was such a strong deck. Didn't even matter if it was optimized. The deck just oops into wins so easily.
Yeah, that's very true.
You didn't need to target anything. You just draft shaft elemental cards. Oops, I win.
Yeah. So I'll thank you, honestly, do thank you so much for giving me 50-ish minutes of your time to ramble on about control. Is there any sort of
I love rambling.
no, that's brilliant, man. Is there any points that you think we may have not discovered? I feel like our talking points around this here, there, and here it wasn't smoothest. Is there something that we may have missed out? I
I
think we
think that's
kind of
everything that I want to talk about.
yeah.
I'm sure I'll think of something after you
Yeah,
stop the video. But
absolutely. I will say so. As we started this recording, this will obviously come out in a period of time that everyone already knows the news exists that Worlds has come out. So we've literally about to hit record, and then we saw the Worlds announcement. It is going to
we're
be
like, oh, never mind, no recording. I gotta look this up.
So we've
That
seen
was funny.
it's actually really cool. The Emperor clearly. Oh god. There's a billion YouTube videos before this comes out, but just so you know, I believe we're the first to record incidentally, right? We didn't mean to do it, but it's going to be CC draft and Blitz for Worlds. What's your
I'm
thought?
not looking forward to the last one.
No, Blitz.
Blitz.
But no, I'm not. But what do you think as an event that requires all three skills? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think that's cool. I think at least the draft plus constructed is always a good choice for these, like, the tournaments that are specifically designed to prove that you're the best at this game, not this format, this game where you're like you're clearly just one of the best fab players. Period. I think that's great. I just personally don't like Blitz.
No.
Like, I want them to make some more changes to that format in general. I think the format, the idea of the format's fine. It just, I don't like how aggressive it is, how short the games can be. But I also don't play it a ton, so, like, grain of salt, my opinion there.
Yeah,
I'm
with you on that. I'm with you on that.
Like, I just skipped the last 2 skirmish seasons. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm literally the same as you. It's the draft. What sort of draft? Because by the time Worlds comes around, I believe that the new set will be out, and the new set is going to be a expansion set, which is not. Oh no, they don't call that anymore. It's called expansion, I think. Anyway, but yeah, it's going to be just like Everfest and Crew, and so there's no draftable. It's not a draftable set. So what set are they going to draft? Right. I hope they turn around and go, it's a rando. It's a rando draft. This pod has Monarch.
It says Uprising draft on the thing.
I wish they just turned around and went, it's a rando on. Which one are you going to be? You've got Uprising. You have Tales of Aria. You have Welcome to Rave. You have this. So you've got to sit there and actually go, I've got to be.
I'd be down for some WTR drafting. I love that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know what draft pod you're in. You got to kind of be ready for all draft. That'd be
okay. What about this? What about so they're doing different draft pods each day? It looks like. What if you had to draft multiple sets over this day we'll do WTR, this day we do Uprising, but it's a set so you can know it to practice at least.
Yeah. So the day 2 turns around and goes, you know what set you're going to be drafting. So then you actually go back and go, right.
What if they did that for like a calling or something where it was like every 3 rounds you did a different set? Oh, that'd be crazy.
Oh man, it'd be so much fun.
This would never happen, but that would be super fun.
That would be loads of fun.
I'm gonna do that with my local group.
There you go.
I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah, I think if everyone was just like, I understand everyone's got to nail the first one, right? Like you got to make it logistically workable. I hope they actually did turn around and actually think that, and then they probably must have went, that's a lot of different boxes and stock and stuff we've got to try and pull out of somewhere. But it would have been. I still think it probably would have been cool to see the Monarch Tales of Aria Uprising. Like that seems to be like the core journey for a lot of people to go Monarch, Tales of Aria, and now Uprising. Just have those sets just sort of go. Yeah, don't worry about Arcane Rising and Welcome to Rave. That's like a pre. That's like a.
I think
pre
I'm content never drafting Tails again.
Oh, Tails was sick. Tails is awesome. I love Tails. I'm not a fan of Uprising. I think I think
it's fine.
It's fine.
Uprising's fine, but I did not like Tails at all.
What?
I felt like I was always drafting the same couple decks, and my deck just looked the same every time.
Oh, okay. I loved sitting there going, oh, Earth. Okay, so what? I'm not picking the cards. I'm picking the elements, and then these elements weren't telling me which hero I was going to do quite yet. And you actually could be able to pivot a lot later, whereas in Uprising, it's just very much like,
oh,
you better like go now.
That aspect of Uprising. Yeah, I don't like that aspect at all of Uprising, of like picking the lane picking in Uprising. That's an issue that I have. But like, I just didn't enjoy the draft portion of Tales, where it just felt like I was always playing the same couple things, and like there's very little variation in what I was doing. And then when I sat down to play my games, I was just always playing the same 30 cards essentially for each of the heroes.
Oh, okay. It's interesting. It's interesting. Did you ever draft Monarch? I heard that's like the tippy top.
Monarch, I didn't.
No, nor did I.
I've done one. I did one sealed game on my second week playing the game, and I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, no. I played sealed Monarch and went playing CC. This is rubbish. But like, I've been told the draft Monarch is like tippy top, amazing, like the best one.
Wait, no, I did one draft of it, and that was very okay. But I didn't know what I was doing.
No, but I think it's just very much that you've got 4 heroes to lean in on. You've got Shadow and Light. You could still go, oh, I'll pick some good Shadow cards, and it still leaves me open. And then even then, you're not gonna get like picked out because
I just like
it could be quite
generics.
What's that?
I just like when we have the generics that are like build around cards, where it's like you can take this generic, it's good in a couple different heroes, but it also now gives you a build around strategy, like Slogism and Regurgitating Slog, that kind of like I can build this engine around this card and like have this game plan around it, not just this is generically good in my deck.
But yeah.
I just like those things.
Wow, we're talking about draft, but yeah, Worlds, hey, Worlds is coming up, and you're going to be all good with all 3. So knuckle in, Pheano, because you're going to be now a Blitz player by the time November comes around. I don't know what that entails either, but yeah.
Probably me playing Icelander.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick. I don't know if that's any good, but we'll do it.
Me either.
No, I don't know who I'm going to play. Anyway, dude, thank you so much. It's been a long one, and I hope everyone enjoys it. Thank you.
Had a good time. Thanks for having me on.